What is up, y'all? The pods are open and we are talking about Love is Blind. I said I was going to do 1 through 6 as an overview. These are still going to be kind of overviews. They're not going to be super detailed, but I really wanted to get episode 1 out. I just finished watching episode 1 itself, and I feel like I just wanted to get it out right now just so I can kind of see how I'm going to actually move throughout these recaps. But if you're new here, hit subscribe. Do that real quick. I'm going to be here all season. All season. But if you're not new here, you probably saw me last year. This time last year, I didn't do the last season, but I did the season before the last. So yeah, if you're returning, shout out to you for coming back. Make sure to thumbs up the video. Y'all do that real quick. Get me in the algorithm. Helps so much with pushing the video out, bringing more people to us so we can have more conversations. So yeah, I'm not going to waste too much time because I want to get back into episode 2 and 3. Leave the spoilers out of the comments. I'm only talking about episode 1. I'm only talking about episode 1 right now. I'm going to get on episode 2 and 3. I don't know if that's going to come out tonight. If it don't come out tonight, it's going to come out tomorrow. And I'm going to try to get to the rest of the episodes tomorrow as well. But yeah, let's go. All right, so we get into the pods. The first couple or pairing that we got Casey, who's 32 years old, and Patrick, who is 30 years old. Casey, we find out that she was dating her high school boyfriend on and off for the past 10 years. She's been cheated on the whole time. That's essentially what it is. The last guy that she dated was very much present on social media and always essentially chose the hotter blonde, is what she stated. And it seems like she was comparing herself to those blondes that he cheated on her with and was pretty much questioning her self-worth and pretty much compared herself to them at all times. But we find out that she's a hair and makeup artist and she loves sporting events on the weekend and whatnot. Patrick, he played basketball in school. Patrick is Asian. I don't know exactly where he's from, at least from what I remember yet. But he's Asian. She's a white girl. He played basketball. She has 4 brothers and a sister. Her sister is actually in Korea. She sings in Korea. And he asked if she's ever been. She hasn't been. She wants to travel more. And he is a construction manager. So he pretty much works remote. So he has the flexibility to go travel. So if they want to go travel together, it makes sense. Honestly, from their first interaction from episode 1, I wasn't feeling the chemistry. I feel like he had a better connection with the next person we're about to talk about. But we found out a little bit more about his backstory. He said he usually puts in more effort into dating than he typically gets in return. So he puts more into the dating that he has had in the past than what has actually been reciprocated, which has ultimately led to him having a lot of insecurities as he is an Asian male, pretty much in a predominantly white area, and dating in that space. He's gotten a lot of insecurities, but we then see him having a conversation with Anna, who is 27 years old, who is also of Asian descent. So they don't know that obviously in this moment in time, but I found that interesting because I'm like, and you could tell here, not even just because they're Asian and they haven't really discussed that in this first interaction. They just have a natural vibe. I felt more of a vibe between these two than him with old girl. But she's dated all ages, dated mainly white guys, and he typically dates white women. But he's open to all other races, but they both pretty much come to the conclusion like the reason why they date just strictly white people is because of the area that they're in Colorado. Well, we find out that she's from Brooklyn. Her parents moved from a different country, I'm assuming China, because she is Chinese. But they're pretty much relating on basically being products of immigrants. And they haven't really disclosed it yet. I'm pretty sure they're probably going to, but I just found that interesting. Like, they're just bonding on things that they don't really know that they have a lot of relation to. But he talks about being adopted. They both don't have middle names. We find out that too. There's just a natural chemistry between the two of them. She talks to us about her parents wanting her to pretty much find a Chinese man, and all she's really brought home was everything but that. I found that funny. I like their vibe. I'm very interested in seeing how they go towards the rest. See if they make any other connections with anybody else. But if it's just them two talking to who they've been talking to, I feel like these two would work. We'll see. But Anna, she's talking to Blake, who's 32 years old. Blake, I feel like Blake has a better connection. We'll get to that in a minute. But they both aren't religious. We find out that she ends up asking, like, are you homophobic or racist? And he's like, no, like, obviously not. Even if he is, he ain't gonna say yes. But I don't think that he is. But they both enjoyed their talk. It's gonna be interesting to see if Anna is feeling him more than she's feeling Patrick. Because Blake, I feel like Blake got another option. And we're about to move into it, which is Megan. Megan got 3 options. She got 3 options. I have a whole section in my notes devoted to her. So we'll talk to her with Blake. And we'll talk about their combos as they happen. Well, not as they happen. We're just going to break them up into their little groups. So we're going to talk about Megan and Blake. Megan, she is 33 years old. He talks to her about how he pretty much states that most of his friends are in serious relationships. They're having kids right now. He pretty much prioritized a lot of his career in his 20s. And she relates on that. I also relate on that. Like, I prioritize so far. Like, I just turned 30. So I prioritized most of my 20s trying to get my life together too, because of the way I look at it. I want to provide. I want to be the provider. I don't want to be struggling. So that's essentially where I'm at. But we ain't talking about my relationship. But he wants kids. She does as well. And they just essentially haven't found that person yet that they want to have kids with. But she tells us that she feels like men are typically intimidated by her, which is why she feels like she's still single, and her success and her lifestyle kind of gives off that vibe. I feel like Megan is very well put together. It's very clear that she understands what she wants out of her life, what she wants out of her partner, which I can see how that can come off intimidating. To some man that is not as secure, that type of shit would be very, very intimidating. But their second conversation, she feels like they have a strong, because their first conversation, I was like, I don't know. But their second conversation was better. She feels like they have a strong connection. She tells us this, and she feels like she's looking to find something wrong with him, because she feels like essentially on paper, he's just about as perfect as she can get at this moment in time. But their second conversation, he starts talking about his dad passing in hospice 4 years ago due to liver failure. Hate that for him. But she asked about his regrets and anything, and he was like he regrets not having as close of a relationship with his dad as they could have. We found out that they bonded a lot through sports, and he feels like there was not much beyond that. And as he got older, he grew pissed off and frustrated with himself that they didn't have a better relationship, and he didn't really actively work towards trying to get that. So she then asked him like if he ever brought it up, and he was like, no, I didn't. He said he feels like he missed an opportunity doing that, which is what I hate that though. Cause I feel like there's nothing worse. I haven't experienced it, but I feel like there's nothing worse than losing somebody and feeling like you could have done more to make that relationship better if it was strained, and not acting on it in the moment. Because whenever they're gone and you had that on your mind, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. That's why I always address everything. Me personally, I've always been blunt. I've never been the type to sit on anything. If something's bothering me, I'm always going to state it. Because you never know. And that's the thing, too. It's not even about just never knowing when the next day is going to end for the next person. But I feel like sitting on stuff, you just allow it to fester, and then you're not really getting anything accomplished. So I'm the type of person that likes to just address it head on. But she then talks about not wanting to repeat the mistakes that she saw within her parents' marriage. And then she then starts talking to him about her dad and her dad passing, which we find out in another conversation. She talked about this first with somebody else, but we'll get to it. But she then lets him know that because she gets emotional talking about her dad's passing, and he didn't realize that she didn't tell him before. And she pretty much tells him about her dad. How did her dad? Diabetes. He had diabetes. But we find out too that he fell, hit his head, had a heart attack as well. Hard, man. That's hard. But she feels like putting him in a home essentially would have been a lot harder than that, which I can understand, because putting him in a home, it's like you're just waiting on that moment for it to happen. Whereas with something like this, it's like I can state that it would seem easier, but you never really can say it's easier. But I mean, in her mind, I guess that's an easier way for her to cope with it than to just sit there and just watch him going through that. But she talks about how she's mentally been essentially preparing herself, because he, as she was younger, pretty much kept talking about how he was going to die. And for half of her adolescence, essentially, she basically heard that. And she kind of spent a lot of that time kind of preparing herself. And she feels like he's with her throughout every day and stuff. And she's asking him for guidance and stuff. And she's getting emotional through all of this. They're really he's supporting her. She's supporting him. Out of all of her connections, I feel like this one is her best one. I do. I feel like she has another good one, but I feel like this one as a whole, I feel like they mesh on a connection level. I feel like they mesh on a career level. I feel like they would. We don't know for sure, but that's how I feel. But we then see her conversation with Mike. I felt like in the moment, I felt like they had more natural chemistry than her and Blake. This was off of the first conversations. But he's a real estate investor. He's at the point in his life where he's ready to pour into somebody now that he has that flexibility with his career. And she starts talking about being a perfectionist and being a type A type of person. And she believes that She believes in traditional gender roles. She feels like the woman should be the nurturer, the man should be the provider. She wants a man to take care of a woman. Basically, that's what she wants. He likes that as well, and he tells us that he's intrigued by her. Their second conversation, she says like he's the one that really got his shit together the most. She feels most compatible with him in that regard. But she finally gets his age. She was asking in the first conversation about his age. She finds out he's 37. She's 33. And she likes his ambition and his emotional intelligence. She also had another conversation with Jordan, who was 29, who is a single dad of a 5-year-old son, who also has type 1 diabetes. They were connecting on that. His son has type 1 diabetes, and her dad had diabetes. So she ends up asking him if he wanted more kids. He got snipped, but he was like, I mean, we can get it reversed. But he then asked why her last relationship had ended. And she says typically she likes to date older. It wasn't working, so she tried dating somebody younger who just essentially was not ready for what she wanted, which was marriage and kids, which, I mean, that's understood. Because, like, when you date younger, you take that risk. Like, when you're really dating younger, you take a risk of dating somebody that is potentially not ready, which is why I feel like it's necessary to always make your intentions known immediately so you're not wasting your time. Because if you are going to date younger, you do need to let those people know, hey, this is what I'm expecting out of this relationship. And if they don't want to give it to you and they don't want to meet you there, then you need to move on because you're going to be wasting your time. But she's ready to find her person. He talks about how their aesthetics are different. Like, he's very relaxed in the way that he moves in his lifestyle, the way he dresses. She gives off more sophisticated, which she does. But they have a light banter, a lot of good conversation going on, I feel. But he then talks about his son being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in the second conversation. And he talks about how brutal it is, like, just watching his son go through that. So, like, I mean, a kid, anybody going through that is hard, especially a kid. But, like, that young, I bet it is hard. But she lets him know that her dad had it as well, and he passed in 2020. Both of them got emotional. This was the first time she got emotional, at least from what they showed us. She obviously got emotional with, was it Blake, I think? Whoever I was just talking about. But she got emotional with him, but that was after this one, at least from what I saw. But they got emotional. He tells her that emotional connection is important to him, which it is, and it should be, because I feel like if you're not emotionally attached to somebody, it's never going to work. It's never going to work. But he talks about that. They allude to possibly falling for each other. And she tells us that she laughs the most with him, but she does not feel like they're aligned in a lot of ways, and she just doesn't see their lifestyles meshing. Even though she don't know, we'll see. Her stating this, because this conversation was before that last conversation I was just talking about, I could see that. Because, like, out of these conversations, you can tell, I don't want to say Jordan's immature because I haven't seen it yet. We'll see as the episode's going. But you could just tell, like, she's a little bit more mature, and I just feel like it just wouldn't make sense. But we'll see. But we then move to Allie and Anton. Allie's 27, Anton is 28. They are the first engaged couple of the season. Episode 1, they got engaged after 3 conversations. But she feels like she's been single because she hasn't found somebody that has matched her ambition and drive. And she says she's really soft, but she presents hard. And I said, that's interesting, because watching throughout their entire interaction, she didn't present hard. Like, she just came very soft. She's very soft-spoken. And that's just the kind of energy that she gave. But they talk about their names and whatnot. They go by shortened versions of their names, but they talk about, like, now wanting to go by their actual name because it means a lot more. We find out she's Brazilian, he's Russian. He opens up also about having to essentially get it out the mud. He's basically the provider. He pretty much believes in old school traditional type relationships when it comes to his women, like him being the provider, him taking care of them, taking care of the family, all of that stuff. And she says, like, that's one thing that hindered some of her previous relationships, is that she didn't really have the standards that she saw growing up, which I found interesting, because I'm like, you see that's typically how most of it is. Most, and even good and bad, the things that you watch growing up is typically what you expect out of your future relationship. So for her to not expect that was interesting to me. But they have a really good vibe. I wrote that down from their first conversation. They had a good vibe. You could tell they were really connecting, just emotionally too. And he talks about how he only shares his feelings, aka getting vulnerable with people that he's comfortable with. I mean, obviously. But he feels like he likes feeling heard by the person that he loves the most. And he then ends up asking her if it makes sense. And he says, baby, She loved it. She asked him to state it again. He said it again. She likes those affectionate things. She likes words of affirmation. Their third conversation, we didn't see their second conversation in full. They showed a little flashback of it. But we find out that they both had dreams about each other the night before. Long story short, they share that they love each other to each other. She's getting emotional talking about it. She says she 100% loves him. He tells her that he loves her too. He gets on one knee and proposes. They have their first meeting at the end of this episode. We didn't get to see the full reaction. We're going to see that in episode 2. I feel like they're going to be all right. But, at least for right now, because it seems too good to be true, which we all know with this show, the too goods to be trues end up being the messy ones, Tyler and Ashley, if you catch what I'm talking about. But Edmund and Calabria, she's 27 years old. I've seen people talking about them, but I haven't really paid attention strictly on what was really said. But I'm expecting a mess going forward. I haven't seen it yet. Keep the spoilers out the chat. But first impressions, I feel like she's here. And I feel like he's trying to get up there with her. I feel like he a little goofy. And I can't wait to see how it's going to happen in real time, like when they see each other, if they do. But she's very sure of herself. It's very clear. She's very confident. You can tell she already knows what she expects from herself. She's pretty much steering the conversation the majority of the time. And they both are pretty much into non-traditional ideas of marriage. She'd be okay with being 50-50. She'd be okay with being the breadwinner. He's okay with that, 50-50. That's the type of lifestyle that they like. I don't see nothing wrong with that as long as y'all both agree on it. But she then says that she's going to be working. She's like, I done went to school. I got these degrees. I got them for a reason. Love that. Love that for her. But we find out that she does social work. He loves traveling. He's been to the UK. They both play collegiate level sports. He was a corner in football. She was a shooting guard in basketball. I was a shooting guard as well. He's a realtor. And he was also in property management first for 5 years, but that led him to being a realtor. So I was like, okay, that's cool. We got a lot of realtors on this season. But she wants to essentially, and it's funny because a lot of their goals and aspirations and their actual careers actually intertwine, which could make sense. But she lets him know that she wants to get into buying homes and putting Section 8 tenants in them. So that kind of goes hand in hand with her social work. But she tells him, like, essentially our careers, we can kind of help each other out with our own aspirations, which they can. But he then starts talking about being in the foster care system because that kind of just segued into it. And she then talks about, too, she wants to have her own nonprofit group home. So she finds him intriguing, obviously, because there's a lot of commonalities between the two of them. He's over there giddy. Every time she's stating stuff that's kind of like giving him good energy, he's over there kicking his feet up and stuff. I said, this is interesting. But he starts talking about how he grew up. He grew up very much impoverished homes. He was in and out of the foster care system, being separated from his brothers. When his parents got, essentially he said too, when his parents got them back, like for a couple of months, he and his brothers got ripped away from him again because of stuff that his parents did. He didn't really tell us exactly what they did, but we could only imagine. But he then says, like, it made him into the man that he is today, like, which is good to see that he actually progressed in his life. He got his master's, good for him. He starts talking about also wanting to be a substitute teacher later in life because his 5th grade teacher had changed his life. And he starts getting emotional. She's comforting him. He's trying not to cry, but he immediately starts to get even more emotional. And she's supporting him. They were vibing. I was really enjoying this first interaction. I already know it's going to be some mess. But Joe and Madison, their first conversation, I was like, I don't know about them. I don't know. This first interaction, out of every interaction, was the one that I was like, I don't know. He's been engaged before. We find out that he's looking for a wife. They start talking about her go-to date. He asked her, what is your go-to date? She starts talking about it. She likes karaoke. He does as well. She says, we'll go to karaoke. Then we'll venture over to 7-Eleven to get some snacks. And then she then asks, she's like, why am I having to come up with all of this? I said, because he asked you what your go-to date is. Like, you tell him what your go-to date is. He's asking to get to know you. That's what I was thinking. But she tells him to finish the date, and he's struggling to finish it because, like, I literally just asked you to tell me what your go-to date is. But they laugh through it and whatever. But they state that they're excited to talk to each other tomorrow. I wrote in parentheses, I'm not feeling it. We about to see, though. We about to see. That is my quick initial thoughts of episode 1. I probably should have put this together with episode 2 and 3 because this is going to be a quick one. But I wanted to get this one out so I can keep myself accountable and give y'all something to bite on real quick. Comment on episode 1. Episode 1 only. Leave the spoilers out. I will see y'all either later on tonight or tomorrow for the next set of episodes. But thumbs up the video if you haven't. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.